Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Absolute pleasure to have you here with us in London. Huge congrats on this movie.
Thank you.
I mean this as a compliment. I almost did have to walk out at one point, so you've definitely did your job. Horror, body horror aspects. For people who haven't seen it though yet, maybe you can give us an intro in your own words. Mm-hmm. What do you tell people they can expect coming into your movie?
Expect the unexpected. And I think it's better to have no expectations coming into this one. I think it is a true, it's mashing up a sports drama on the surface with horror. So we took some big swings. I think, body horror is inherent in the game of American football itself. It's just a violent sport. But it does also lean into the psychological horror of just any athlete across any sport or any real person in pursuit of perfection, and how that could drive you mad.
I guess American football, perhaps we, as Brits, we wouldn't sort of readily understand all the nuances of the game or the cultural significance it holds in the US. But I guess perhaps if you're from the US, you sort of see it as this kind of thing that's maybe untouchable. Did you feel like you were sort of, approaching some kind of taboo to take this thing that holds such a place in the culture and bring horror into it, bring body horror into it, and sometimes this sort of like comedic edge as well that you throw in there?
It was definitely like, oh no. I knew it was going to be a bit controversial. For sure, especially if you're getting, God and America involved at this moment with the cinema, and something is, like just left of center and not normal for a studio system to produce something like this with this aesthetic and these themes. So I knew, but at the same time, I just didn't care. I don't care. So I took the swing.
And I guess that's also part of, being involved. Maybe you can talk a bit about that collaboration with Jordan Peele and with Monkeypaw. And perhaps this, one of the reasons that collaboration came about is, seeing your works with Kicks and perhaps having that mischievous attitude towards these things that other people maybe think are untouchable or places that you shouldn't go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where Jordan and I align, where it is, let's push something as far as we can. Let's shoot for the stars, and you land on like Jean Jacket or something, That's like the Monkeypaw universe. So there was a lot of, I think, confidence in the fact that I had someone like Jordan Peele and his stature and Universal Studios kind of, okay, let's just go for it and make something bold.
When I was watching The Substance and talking about that movie, a lot of the conversation was like, actually, in some ways, it just very accurately captures the horror of being a woman sometimes. And I wanted this almost like a male take on that, which is like pushing yourself to be in these sports, making yourself like a god, should be your most like healthy, prime version of yourself. But there's actually so much horror that comes with it. So was that almost something that came out organically from telling the story?
Yeah, absolutely. In the culture itself of sports like American football are so hyper masculine. I mean, like, it's performatively masculine, like the pomp and circumstance and the way they design helmets to be militaristic, and the history is militaristic. It's modeled after war, taking land, and generals are on the sideline with the soldiers on the field. There's so many athletes also that I talk to where you're taught that doesn't matter if your body is ready or willing, you have to be willing to just put it on the line and play anyway, play through it. So you're essentially in American football, you're essentially getting into a car wreck like every weekend, and then you try to recover from it as fast as possible to get into another car wreck. So the toll it takes on these players' bodies is very devastating, and I think a lot of people don't realize it because it's not like necessarily cuts or something. But so with this film, it was trying to put an audience member in the experience and point of view of what it could feel like, even just getting into an ice bath can be intense. But in that that hyper masculine world, I think it's easy, and I hope people should have fun. It is absurd. It is funny, and I think people should feel free to laugh like through the insanity.
And I think having Marlon Wayans, you know, as your Isaiah, perhaps also delivers some of that. Because I was reading how actually, you know, when you'd had an attack in a car park, you went in to see Scary Movie. Because that's also, being a millennial, one of those roles I remember him for. And he brings this incredible combination of like sinister, but also, you know, humor to the role. How did you know he was your right Isaiah? For
all those reasons, I knew we needed someone charismatic, and he's the most charismatic person ever, to carry all the darkness with it. Because, so much fucked up shit happens. It's like you need somebody that can be present enough to get the laugh and to get the seduction, to get an audience on board. And he's a goat himself, like comedically in the entertainment industry. He's been around fame, celebrity, money, and greatness since he was born. So you can't teach that. You can't, that's just innate to his being. And I really wanted him to bring all of him to it, and would have rather, he get him physically to look like a professional quarterback versus finding someone younger that had that and then try to bring that performance and that emotion to it. So he just made sense from the beginning that this was going to be his opportunity. I think he just hasn't had the opportunity to pull something like this off. And it was quite genius, I guess, to pair him with someone, Tyriq, who's obviously not brand new to the screen, but more of an up-and-coming star. So what was it like bringing them toe-to-toe and perhaps, you know, channeling or capitalizing on this sort of an innocence maybe to the way Tyriq looks. So you're sort of, from the beginning, you feel like you're seeing one kind of person, but obviously as the film goes on, something else is awakened inside of him, and he plays that transition so well. So what's it like choosing him and seeing them play against each other? It was so fun to see them develop their own like parallel relationship that became very mentor-mentee, because Tyriq hasn't really, but this was his first major studio project, and he's the leading man, a number one on the call sheet. Definitely look to Marlon for guidance he's in every scene. So he's waking up to train at 5 a.m., then go to set and perform while throwing and being physical. So it's not, like, I don't think if he hadn't had athletic experience in playing college and playing competitive soccer his entire life, I don't know who else could have pulled it off, because it was really demanding and our schedule was tight. And so, I also knew that he had the acting chops to stand up to someone like Marlon. And early on in shooting, Marlon might deny this, but I'm positive that he started stealing some of the scenes, you know? Like, everyone was like, oh my God, Tyriq, you know, like, brought it. And I think that, like, ignited something in Marlon. And it got kind of competitive on the performance level, where Marlon would then, like, start playing pranks on him when we got offset. And just, it became, like, such a funny dynamic that ultimately you can see and feel this playing out in the movie in real time. We could say a few words just about these incredible visuals. I mean, there are just so many scenes that you could just sort of, you know, take a snapshot and it'd be this incredible photo. And I guess, you know, what was the importance of that to you, to have these striking images, you know, whether that's with the mascots or whether that's taking in, you know, Isaiah's house itself, you know, how that became a character, both showing his wealth, but there was something almost very oppressive about that as well. And the fact that, you know, there's like so clean lines everywhere that makes it almost like a haunted or like biblical place. That was the intent, was to give it this very divine feel, like the whole film. Like, we wanted to create new mythology. And because we couldn't touch the NFL, we had to just create our own little universe. And so it was all like his house. I know I was already pulling brutalist references, which is architecture birthed during fascism, and there's it's void, but also beautiful. And I knew that if we could make every scene and every image like as striking as possible, that is part of the hypnosis. That's part of the seduction. Cameron Cade's character, and therefore the audience, since we're going with him. So the same reason why Marlon's casting was important, to keep an audience on the hook and like, okay, this is weird, but we're still gonna stay. The visuals and were doing the same work. That's what we were trying to pull off. And at the same time, give it a divinity. So we just got so lucky with these locations too, because I had written in that it was like in underground so that we could justify top light, so that when you enter a space, it feels like you're entering a chapel, because with light that's only justified from coming from above. So it all started working, and there's randomly a brutalist high school field for no reason in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I have no idea why or who made those choices, but there was a lot of thought that went into the design of this.
And it's hard to sort of pick out a standout scene, but do you have one that you sort of relished shooting, or you're most excited for fans to see? I mean, the one that made me want to hide behind my jacket was quite early on, where the guy's getting hit with the ball for every time he's failing. But also the concussion scenes, maybe, like really drawing the audience into not having that detached feel, but how it might feel, you know, in your bones to actually have to suffer that.
That scene where it's not the first time they're training with the football machine, but that next day where they're training and Cameron Cade's character gets a concussion, and that's the kind of the point of no return in my mind, where it's both he's getting better at football and he's also becoming a worse person, and the stakes are raising because he is now jeopardized physically. And so yeah, I would say that was the most, all cylinders were working at the same time, all department heads were working at the same time, and Marlon's performance that's the one where everyone was like silent after we yelled cut. And
finally, what do you hope people go out the cinema thinking, feeling? I mean, it is just kind of a roller coaster ride, and you never really know where it's going. And then, you know, without spoilers, does really take you to the nth degree. But, you know, there is a social commentary in there about why we put these people on this pedestal and the sacrifices we expect them to make. And I guess going back in time, why is it we like watching these blood sports, let's say, you know, is it that different from watching gladiators fight to the death? Why do we put people through this? So what do you think, you know, people will think about or have some questions in their heads as they come out the cinema for?
Well, you said it best in the question, I think. And I think that the hope was that an audience wouldn't have time to process just like the character, and there would be a level of anxiety, and it cuts to black that you would be left with a what the fuck was that? Because the hope is everyone could at least start a conversation, and if that comes back around to how do we spend our time, who do we spend it with, in addition to various themes, I hope that happens, because whether it be parasocial relationships with celebrity, whether it be institutions, power structures, as long as people are left with something to talk about, I think that would be great.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all that with me. Huge congrats on the movie. I can't wait for everyone else to see it. Thanks so much.